All right, everybody, so I've been holding out on these for a little while. These are the BXBuilt RGB corners. As far as what you get, it does come with its own Bluetooth controller, and this is what gives you that startup sequence that these come with. I've got already a Bluetooth controller in there that's for the headlights. I was like, well, let me just try it with the Bluetooth controller I have, because if you get the headlights, it's got 4 outputs on it. So I went on ahead and just plugged one up to the output of my headlight Bluetooth controller, and it did work just fine. So it doesn't have that fancy startup sequence, but to be honest, to not have to run another Bluetooth controller just for that is not really worth it to me when I've got 2 outputs on that other controller that aren't really doing anything. So this is the second Bluetooth controller that I already showed y'all, and I just zip tied it to the inside of the fender there. There's just a couple of holes, one up and one below, and you can just put it right up on there and zip tie that. And then this white piece here, that's the NeoPixel Bluetooth controller for the headlights. Now I took the black wire, the ground, and I just grounded that right here. So this, I got too many grounds here. Once I make sure that this ground is good, I'm gonna probably take this other one off and put it there as well. I don't know if y'all's is the same way, but mine just had a plain hole there, and it's just a 6mm thread bolt. So I just used that and grounded it that way. Now I got this really cool fuse tap. Let me show you this. So let me just back up for a second. So this fuse tap here is going into the taillight fuse. So the way I like for it to be is so I can just cut my parking lights on, and then I can have my, RGB color stuff on at the same time. So I use the taillight fuse tap for that. Now, I got this double fuse tap that I was hoping to be able to use, but unfortunately, it's got these pieces in here for the fuses, and if you cut those out, I'm pretty sure it would clear, but with those still there, when I put this down in there, it was just too tall, and it hit. So I'm gonna try it the way that I have it, which is what I did. I got this power wire coming out of that fuse tap, and that power wire is going to my controller, which is for the original Bluetooth controller. So what I did was just use one of these posi taps, and I just tapped into that power wire. It's this wire, so I just tapped into that. I think that'll work fine, and it's still gonna be fused. I mean, they're LEDs, so they can't be using but so much, draw of current. So I've got a 7.5 amp fuse in there. I think that's going to be fine. But if you wanted to cut this out, you could get one of these double fuse taps like this, and then you just have one wire going to one controller and the other wire going to the other controller. So that covers the power and ground for the controller itself. Now, I already had my, the actual wires run that I needed for the corners. Did those on the last video. So they're already tied into the corners from the controller. All I have to do is just plug those in to the controller's plugs, these here. And I just got those stuck in there just to be out of the way for now. But what we got to do right now is to be able to use these as sequential corners, we need to tap into a wire to the actual signal light. So if you look under here, I got the wire run down there, and I'm just going to tap into my signal. So you got a wire that's black and white, and you got a wire that's green and yellow. So the black and white is the negative. We're going to tap into the green and yellow wire. And so that's going to give us our signal for when we've got our signals on. Now, I've only just routed these wires, and I just left, a ton of slack here so I can do what I need to do. But how I routed that is, if you look down in here, you see that hole there? You got the big hole where your airbox boot goes through, and then you got this smaller hole. So you just route your wire through that hole, and it'll come out right out of there where we want it. So it's coming out of the same place as your turn signal harness there. So I'm gonna tap as far up in here as I can, because I don't want to tap just hanging out down here. So that's the next thing we need to do, is tap those turn signal wires, and then we're just gonna use the blue and yellow here. Yellow is for the driver's side turn signal, blue is for the passenger side. So for the driver's side wire, I just went through this big hole here, and that'll drop on down through, and we'll tap it on that wire the same way. So I've cut the sheathing back on the turn signal wire. Tried to do it up in there a pretty good ways, but that was obviously not easy to do. But you can see there, I just cut that insulation back. We're going to tap into that. I'm going to do that and show you all what it looks like. Strip back this wire here. Good to go. Just twist that up. This is what I'm using to tap into the wire. These are called posi taps. They're pretty sweet. Because y'all can't really see, there's no way I can get a camera angle up in there the way you can see what I'm doing with this posi tap thing. I just want to show y'all how it works. So when you want to tap one of these wires, obviously the first thing you're going to do is strip back your insulation. And if you don't have one of these, looking to getting one of these, because this is the sweetest thing ever. Doing radios and stuff like that. A lot of times people have these where, you know, it's got these holes here for stripping. That just doesn't work that well. This thing right here, it's bad to the bone. So you got your wire stripped. Take this end off here, the gray end. It's got that piece in there. That's what taps into your wire. So those other blue clamp type things everybody's seen, those are pieces of junk. Screw them stupid things. So you got your, we're going to use the same wire, but this, pretend this is the wire that you're trying to tap into, okay? You're going to take this, slide it over like that. So this is the wire that you're tapping into. Now we're going to take our tap piece here, screw in there, you got your piece slid through there, screw this in, and that's going to basically cut into it. And it is just plastic, but get it nice and tight so you know you've cut into it pretty good. We got our other wire here. Pretend this is the wire that you're tapping into with, so what's coming from your controller or whatever you may be using. Slip it through this. Now you got that sticking out there, right? So taking your new wire, it's freaking hard to hold this crap. All right, you got that there. Now just push it in and try to get the wire around that metal piece as best you can. Push your wire in, start threading in. Push the wire, make sure it's good. Keep on doing that and tighten it in there. And once that's tightened in, it should be pretty good. Now you've got your wire tapped. So that's what I'm doing underneath of this bumper here that y'all can't see. Just a note that I had a second thought here when you're doing this. Make sure that you don't run this wire through anywhere where if you want to take your bumper off, it's going to screw you. And that goes for any time you're running wires. So I got my passenger side turn signal wire running up. See the red wire there. Of course, as y'all know, run it down this channel here. And then you can route it however you want, but I put it through that hole there. And then coming out, now I'm going to cut it right here. And we're going to tie it to this blue wire coming off the controller. I have a real bad habit of leaving wires too long, so I always end up with a bunch of slack, but it's just because I don't want to get myself in a position where I can't do what I need to do. But I think we should be good there. Let's not lose the wire in the friggin' hole. And there's a lot of shit in here. So I can't stand this mess. So these connectors are pretty sweet. I got heat shrink already made to them. Slide it baby on in there. Crimp her down. That's good. I always remember when you're crimping this stuff, once it's crimped, that's how it's going to be routed. A blue wire here, if y'all can see that. Okay, that's done. Now we got to do the green one. Tug on that thing, make sure it's good. You don't want to be dealing with that later. Heat shrink those. There we go. Next. There we go. One more. Oh yeah. We're looking pretty good. So we'll tidy this up. Get the battery in there and hopefully it works. Let's see. Alright, I'm just gonna put this in here for right now and see if it works, because I'm curious. Alright, so I'm not getting anything out of the corners. So this is where we start troubleshooting. I know my power is good. I'm thinking maybe it's a bad ground. So we're going to try that first. And my meter's dead. Being both lights aren't working, that to me means the unit itself is not getting power and it's not coming up in the app. So it's either got to be power or ground. We know we got power to the halo, so I really do think it's got to be the ground. So I'm gonna put it straight to the ground on the battery. So that's the issue we got, it's bad ground. So I'm not gonna leave it like this, but for now I'm just gonna ground it to the battery so we can sort this out. Uncle William had a battery blow up in his face one time, so I'm always a little bit nervous about batteries, but use the ratchet if you got it. I was really hoping that ground was going to work. I might just have to sand it down. I got too much stuff on this other one, so. That'd be enough to test. We got a light. I don't know what the heck it's doing. It's doing its own thing. I'm recording with my phone, so I got to go into this app and see if I can sort this mess out. So let me check real quick. So it is working, but I can't control it. They're just going through the colors of the freaking rainbow. I just took the old Bluetooth controller out. I just took that out because for one, it's too much stuff in there, first of all. And second of all, the halos work fine with this controller as well as corner lights and all that stuff. So we took that controller out, and I know earlier I talked about tapping into that power wire. I just went on ahead and disconnected that, and I spliced it in. You can't really see that, but spliced it straight into that fuse tap that I talked about earlier. So now it's fuse tap, tap straight to that red wire going to the controller. First test of the signals. I don't know. We'll see. This is what I found so far. The corner lights that they sent me with that Bluetooth controller, that came with 4 outputs on that controller. So first of all, I was hitting the left signal, the right signal was going on. I was hitting the right signal, left signal. I was like, oh my gosh, I know I didn't hook these wires up backwards, which I didn't. The outputs are obviously one side and the other coming off the Bluetooth controller. So those little black plugs for your 3-wire LED connectors, you got one for one side, one for the other. There's nothing that tells you which one is what. You're just gonna have to plug them up and see what they do. So when I did that, that got the signal straight. Now, the thing I'm having an issue with is when I cut the signal on, it kind of starts lined up with the bottom one, but it doesn't stay that way, which I'm not surprised. So really, you either need to just turn that light into a marker light, or if you've got a, off-road bumper or something where this will be nice for having those signals. But running all that mess together, that's originally why I said I didn't want to do it, because I knew it wasn't going to line up right. So that's the first thing. Now, the second issue I'm having is when I cut my signal light on, that works fine, but I'm getting, it's not signal level blinking, but it's like it's getting current back and forth, and that's definitely not okay, because that's pretty stupid. I guarantee you, once it gets dark outside, you're definitely going to be able to see that. So I'm still trying to work through that and figure out what's causing that. I've tried all kind of different plug-up configurations and anything. I'm just going to tell you, the app sucks. It's clunky. When you try to click on stuff, sometimes it changes, sometimes it doesn't. It's not good, but it works. You just got to kind of fight through it. So I just got off the phone with BXBuilt. They did give me a call back real quick, so that was cool. I talked to him about the voltage drop when the signal's on, and he said, kind of like I expected. I guess it's drawing so much voltage for that signal that it loses some on the other side or whatever, but I guess he said you can kind of expect that a little bit. It's kind of a bummer, because I think once it gets dark outside, it's going to be pretty noticeable. So we'll have to see once it gets dark. So she's all back together. She's working. Things take me way too long, but I hope that helped y'all out. I know it's kind of a convoluted video. Sorry for all the ridiculousness, but that's just the way it is sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, man, I don't feel like trying to make no video doing this, but hopefully somebody else will get this and maybe it'll save them some time. So as always, appreciate y'all checking it out, and we'll see what comes next. So I'll see y'all later. So if you pay close attention, you can see where that other side is dimming a little bit. It's not terrible. And I ain't keeping all these 3 lights, I can promise you that. So I'm planning on getting another front bumper and not gonna have any signal lights in the bumper. So that's kind of my plan there. But let's take a look here. So you can see it's kind of dumb to me. But other than that, pretty good. Definitely looks a lot better with the one in the bumper not going. I think what I've read is if you put a LED flasher relay in there, that'll take care of that hyper flash in the back. So y'all let me know in the comments if that's true. I think it is though. So with the headlights, it's not as noticeable. I mean, you can still see it. It's just, I don't know why. That's just annoying. I would think that they would have experienced that, but maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, I'm out. See y'all.